The following audio may contain the personal testimonials of Take Shape for Life health coaches or clients. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified, and your individual path to healthy living and weight loss will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a physician before starting a weight loss program. Yours in health, the Take Shape for Life team.
Hi, welcome to tonight's Take Shape for Life Habits of Health webinar. I'm a certified health coach with Take Shape for Life, and it's my pleasure to be your host. If this is the first time joining the Habits of Health webinar, a special welcome to you. This webinar is for all TSFL clients, coaches, and health professionals. But if you don't fit into one of those categories and you're just simply interested in learning more about optimal health and how we create it, you're warmly welcomed too. You may also hear content geared towards those in the weight loss phase of their health journey, those in transition, and for those in the optimization phase, moving towards a lifetime of optimal health. Take Shape for Life offers excellent tools and support for weight loss, but we also have a lot to offer to anyone who's looking for better health in any area of life. If you're in the weight loss phase, perhaps on our 5-in-1 structured fueling plan, be sure to follow the guidelines that have been set up for you by your free health coach. By the way, this webinar is being recorded and will be available on your health coach's co-branded website, as well as our YouTube channel, and audio-only versions via podcast within 48 hours. On YouTube, search for Habits of Health Zoom. For podcasts, open a podcast player of your choice. We recommend iTunes, and just simply search for TSFL. You can also access video recordings at bit.ly/HOH playbacks. For those who are listening to the recorded podcast later, we're glad that you've taken the time. We invite you specifically to join us live next time to be part of our discussion. These Habits of Health support webinars are held every Wednesday evening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Visit your health coach's co-branded website for the link. So tonight, our topic is actually titled Planning. Do you plan more for a trip than you do for your life? So a little bit about my story. I've been a health coach for now about 6 years, and I lost 50 pounds, and that was actually seven years ago. And so it's been a pretty amazing journey. You see some of those pictures on the top left where I was, not so spry and healthy feeling, and I gained quite a bit of weight. And then you see the pictures in the middle and on the right after I've lost my weight, and a number of activities, and really just life is a lot better as I've been able to lose all that weight. Our topic tonight, when we're talking about this, we're talking about we spend more time planning a vacation than we do on planning our lives. And so I want to ask you a couple questions, and then I'm going to introduce, we have a guest tonight that'll be joining us. But what do you think this is? And I think there's many reasons why this could happen. It takes time, and it's not urgent. When you have a vacation, it's got a start date and it's urgent, right? Maybe it's vacations are urgent, and have a start date. I'll get to a life plan later. I'm busy with the have-tos. I'm busy kind of running my life, getting to work, getting the kids to school, all that kind of stuff. Maybe there's always going to be tomorrow. Oh, I'll get to that long-term planning. I'll get to my health goals later. I don't really have time for that now. I have to get the kids ready. I have to get to work. I have to do laundry. Really, I would just say, might just insert your excuse, here. So that's a little bit of detail there. Next up, I want to introduce Miriam Khan. This is a before and after picture, and then we're going to bring her on. But this is Miriam before she started her Take Shape Life journey, and obviously this is a picture of her today. And so let's welcome Miriam to the Habits of Health webinar. Welcome, Miriam.
Hi, Craig. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Tell me just a little bit about, let me share this picture again. Tell me a little bit about these two people here you see.
Yeah, I said to you before, at some point, that picture on the left, I actually thought I looked okay enough to leave the house. But that's a person who was, not just visibly physically unhealthy, but I was extremely stressed, lots going on, created some really yucky, unhealthy habits that really contributed to that feeling, that look. Um, you don't move quickly when you feel like that. And it's quite different today.
Yeah, I bet. Well, and you've been coaching now for a while. So not only have you been practicing the habits of health, but you've been teaching other people and guiding other people all along that journey. And that's actually why one of the things you and I have talked many times at different events, and I know you do quite a bit of traveling. And so when I saw the topic for tonight to come up, I thought, what a great opportunity, because you travel back to Israel many times a year, and Israel's not, just a couple states over. It's a nice little, you don't go for a weekend, right? You go for a
No.
while when you go. And
Correct.
so you have some experience with planning trips and as well as life planning with your health coach practice. So let's talk a little bit about that. And so I actually have a little slide here from you as you take your trips to Israel. And so tell me just a little bit about, your experience as you get ready for a trip and you plan to be gone away from your normal routine for a while, and what goes into that.
So we were talking about this, and the first thing that happens is the initial excitement when, okay, I'm ready to plan the next trip. And just to clue everybody in, I don't really love traveling, but I have some really awesome packages waiting on the other end. I have now 2 married daughters, and one is a newlywed, and 2 baby grandchildren, 3 and 1. So, when I get initially excited and ready to plan the trip, and I pick my dates, which takes a little bit of work, there's a little bit of coordinating in my home life. And then I have to look for a flight that's not exorbitant because it's a big trip. And then all the other pieces that go in, once you've planned that, then you have to get into the nitty gritty. The thing that I have, in all the years that I've been traveling and working with people, I've never met anybody who loved the whole process. And in particular, let's just throw packing out there. And yeah, so those are pictures of me packing for this most recent trip.
Yeah.
It was a big trip because my daughter was getting married, so it was a really big trip. And when you talk about planning, crazy planning went in. I do have a handicapped son, and I had to get him there, right? And I had to figure out, among the things that I normally have to figure out, I had to add travel arrangements because I needed a handicap van, etc. We needed the right places to stay. We had to be right at, everything had to be really mapped out. Interestingly enough, more than I've ever done before. And I typically travel 2 to 4 times a year. So far, we've been very, very blessed. It's for family events, life events, and just sometimes I just need to squeeze the kids. One got toilet trained, one cut a tooth, and I was on a plane. So
nice. That's great.
Yeah, but you reach that point where the getting ready to go is exciting. Getting there is exciting, but then there's that weird stuff in between that is like, oh gosh.
Right. But what's interesting is when we're talking about this, when you are actually getting ready to plan a trip starts at a certain time and it ends at a certain time, and you have, how long you're going to be gone usually. And so there's a lot more intentionality, I think, that goes along with planning a trip versus we talk about, planning the rest of our lives. Planning to be healthy during all those vacations and trips and things that you do. Or maybe you don't do lots of travel, but you still have an opportunity to plan for our lives. I guess I'm curious as what your thoughts are on why we take you. Obviously, you just went through quite a bit that you go through when you travel. Why do you think some of the reasons are why we spend more time planning a trip versus planning to live in a healthy body for our lifetime?
Well, it's something that we procrastinate about. because there's always, I'll do it tomorrow. And then, bringing it down to eating, I'll just eat this today, but tomorrow I'll be okay. And there's no date attached to it, whereas the vacation has a very finite date. Those of us that need to make arrangements at work, you really got to plan that, and it's for a set amount of time. And the key is you need to make the most of that time that you're given, which may be a week, maybe 2 weeks. If you have a really good job for a long time, it might be 4. But you want to pack as much as you can into those 2 weeks so it becomes such priority.
Yeah, that makes sense. And for your life, you're like, well, I'm going to be alive for years and I'll get to that sometime. It's not, not something that I think that there's one thing that I heard recently as I was reading a book on, I think it's the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Yeah, by Covey. And so Covey talks about these different quadrants in our life. And we have quadrant 1, which is urgent. So it's time sensitive and it's necessary. Like, you have to do it, like grocery shopping. That's urgent and necessary, right? And then we have this thing called quadrant 2, which is not urgent, but necessary. And I think our health oftentimes, when you're traveling on a trip or planning a trip, it becomes urgent and necessary, and if you don't spend time kind of taking time to plan, everything becomes urgent and necessary. So it moves from quadrant 2 to quadrant 1. And so what I'm finding is that our health is more of a quadrant 2 thing. Getting out and doing exercise. It's like, well, if I go another day or 2 without doing it, it's not like my life's going to get horribly bad. So it's not urgent yet necessary. Have you had experience with kind of those quadrants as well?
Yeah, and there's no date on it. So you don't have an urgent factor. Oh, okay, I'm 50 years old. Like, I'm still good and I'm pretty healthy and I'm managing okay. And, I'll join the gym. After New Year's.
Yeah, exactly. That's
right.
exactly.
And it's like another day, I just have this event this week, so I'm going to wait until next week. And it doesn't have a date. You didn't have to take time off to do it, so you don't have the feeling like I want to make the most of it. And days go by and you end up looking like the pink lady in the other picture.
What I'm wondering here as well, Miriam, is that as I'm thinking about like taking a vacation, oftentimes I get so excited about the vacation that like I wake up thinking about it. When I daydream about it without, like, if I'm going to go, my wife and I are getting ready to plan our 25th anniversary. Right. And so we want to do kind of a cruise and somewhere Mediterranean, Rome, I don't know, something over there. Right. And so I'm starting to think about it when I'm not thinking about it, that kind of thing. Right. And so vacations are like that. But how often do I spend time thinking about my health like I do? What's it going to take for me to get excited about my health like I am about kind of a vacation? I don't know if it can be the exact same thing, but I think there's something we can learn through that process. What do you think? There's
huge clarity when you're envisioning yourself on vacation. For me, I envision myself just hugging and squeezing the kids because it's not really a vacation. It's just how I see my grandchildren. But you have such clarity as to what you want to look like, feel like, be like on that vacation for those, whatever you're going to go. I'm assuming 2 weeks, maybe 3. But so it's so clear to you what you want to feel, see, do. You know exactly what it's going to look like, be like, feel like. So the power of that is going to drive you to plan it and make sure that every duck is in a row before you get on that plane.
Right. Yeah. Tell me, here's a fun little picture here. Tell us a little bit about this picture, because I know you were in a wedding, preparing for a wedding with each one of these photos. So tell me a little bit about these.
So this is kind of alarming and fun at the same time. Those are my older daughter got married. I was wearing the pink dress, and my other daughter got married about 5 weeks ago. The second daughter got married in Israel. And when I started when I looked at myself at that first picture when I was getting that dress fitted, it was astounding to me that I hadn't lost any weight from the time my daughter announced the wedding date till I went to deal with that gown. And I went on what I thought was going to be do what you can in 4 weeks till the wedding. And it turned out to be take shape for life, which at the time I didn't know the for life part. It was just take shape as fast as you can, doing whatever you can. And it was literally, and I was up like my health coach knows, Mary knows that I'm like, what do you mean you don't have food that I could pick up right now?
Yeah.
So I start this program just so I can feel better in a dress that was actually already made. And in 4 weeks, there's no number, but I felt amazing. I thought I looked great in that picture. When I picked up the dress, it was big on me. And I got to tell you that the dressmaker was horrified. And I'm like, no, it's great. I feel awesome. But then something unusual happened, and something kicked in during those weeks before and into the day after the wedding, where something shifted. And my reality was that I felt physically so much better during those 4 weeks than I had in many years, that I woke up in the morning and I had a fueling. The day after the wedding, I could barely walk on my poor little feet, but I had a fueling. And I kept on with the program. So the result is 45 pounds. Now that's 45 pounds. And here's a funny anecdote that happened when I went to pick up the red gown. The dressmaker really loves what he does, and I picked it up a couple of weeks before the wedding because I was traveling a week before the wedding, and then we had the Jewish holidays. I wanted to have it in the house. And he said to me, you can't gain or lose even a pound with this dress. And my sister-in-law, who was with me for the pickup, we both looked at each other, laughed, and were like, no worries, I got this. And I had the dress in the bag, and I packed it, and I put it on the day of the wedding, and I got this.
That's great. What a great story. What a great story. It's like, don't worry, I won't gain anything. I got it.
He's like, you can't. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm okay. He's like,
that's great. There's another idea that I have is, and this is something that I have found through Take Shape for Life, and I know you have found it too, and this kind of speaks to that. And I've tried to kind of discuss this or express this in different ways, and the best term I can come up with is a rhythm. It's a rhythm of life where you have hope for the future, you have a plan that's intact, you have things that you do and structured things that you're a part of, and you just, I don't know, you don't have this mystery about your life, your health just kind of getting away from you anymore. It's I don't know, there's just too much stuff, and so you find this rhythm through the habits of health, and it starts with small things like breakfast every day, and you just don't miss breakfast anymore. And then you get your water bottle and you drink your water. It's because it's just what you do. It's your rhythm, and you eat every 3 hours, and your body just seems to remind you, and you just and so you find this rhythm that works for you. And your pound, you may go up a few and down a few, and you may have a little bit of flexibility, but you just find this sweet spot in this rhythm. And so you talked about finding that rhythm as well with getting this, being able to be confident that you would fit in this wedding dress down the road. I know many of you are probably thinking about, wow, how many times have you been fitted for a dress and you had to make sure, you were super careful, and it was probably not careful that you didn't lose too much. It's probably careful you didn't gain too much, right? What a difference that is.
Craig, here was another thing that somebody pointed out to me on a team call, that imagine the freedom of, your daughter's getting married in a couple of months, and losing weight you forget to think about it as something that you have to do.
Wow. Yeah,
I didn't even realize that I didn't think about it. Somebody reminded me that we didn't think about it.
Yeah. Well, it's just there's so much freedom in that. If you really think about it, there's this confidence and there's this freedom when you found your rhythm. And that's actually kind of as we move forward here, we think about, what's next and where are we going to go from here. And you may be struggling with kind of the yo-yo cycle, and it may be because you're treating your life. You're not treating your life with the intensity of a vacation. You don't have a plan. You don't have a clear path. You don't have your rhythm yet. And I just want to encourage everybody. This is something that's been huge for me personally, is when you understand that you maybe don't have that because the results are obvious, that if you can stop for a second and change your focus to becoming aware. So I call it awareness without judgment. I just want to become aware when I'm acting in a way that doesn't serve me. When I'm making decisions that aren't actually, like, imagine if I was going on a trip to the Mediterranean and I needed to purchase plane tickets or something, and I kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, then my actions would be doing things that wouldn't be serving what I actually wanted to do, right? So maybe you're trying to lose 50 pounds, and actually you're not going to lose it this time. You want to get rid of it, right? And so you have these different opportunities to put things in your mouth that don't get you closer to that. So just thinking about that from that standpoint and thinking about, what if I'm aware that this is not going to get me closer to what I want, then I can stop and I can make a decision. I can shift and say, well, what would get me closer to what I want? Well, maybe I go for a walk, or maybe I just have some alternative things that are calorie-free activities that would satisfy or encourage me, to get closer to what I want. So that's why, as we're thinking about this, some of the next steps that I might suggest for people, and some of those would be specifically get with your health coach and have a conversation about these longer term things, and look to build a rhythm using the habits of health, right? Think of the habits of health as like a songbook. Those are notes and those are instruments. And as you build that rhythm in your life, you'll figure out where the sleep fits in, and where the water fits in, and where the movement fits in, and where the your fuelings and breakfast and low glycemic. And there's all these little teeny pieces here and there. But above all of those, the most important piece of all of it, I think, is the community, is the orchestra that you're, playing that music in, the people that you're doing it with. And so if you don't have a community of healthy people around you, well, I want to tell you that Take Shape for Life does a lot of work around this. I think that community is the one thing that makes things sticky. And so as we get back to our beginning of planning our life, planning vacations, and taking the time to get the details there, and then looking for that community to come alongside you in addition to your health coach, and that will allow you to build kind of that rhythm that will not only help you lose the weight, but help you to get rid of it. And man, there's a whole lot of health gain beyond the weight loss phase, right? And I knew for you, Miriam, actually, we have a few minutes left here, and I'm curious about just talking to you about your rhythm and the things. Well, one of them is you're able to go to this wedding and not have to worry about losing weight. And I'm sure there's some things about you traveling as a healthy person in a healthy body versus traveling in the old body. Maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Yes. So, when you're living healthy, excuse me, your energy is just very different. And I think that was what, if I had to think of one thing that was going to make me stick to the program beyond the morning after the wedding 5 years ago, it was the energy factor. was what really got me. I was definitely sleeping better, but when I had to think, and somebody even said to me recently, well, what made you stick with it? And it was, I suddenly recognized how different I felt. And that whole thing is so dramatic and remarkable that I couldn't ignore it. And, to be clear, 5 years ago, my life was extremely stressful. Extremely stressful. Actually, that wedding was 6 years ago. It was extremely, extremely beyond stressful. And I didn't even realize that eating poorly and feeling lousy from eating poorly, sleeping poorly, zero exercise, drinking mass quantities of coffee, because you couldn't get through my day without it. But the biggest factor in the whole thing was a little bit of eating right, a little bit of drinking a ton of water, a little bit of just paying attention to my surroundings, basically. It was such a major energy shift that I couldn't not continue. I had to have more. And, the biggest piece is I had a health coach, and we had a community. And I read the Habits of Health book twice during the 4 months that I was on program. Twice.
Yeah.
And as the people around me saw the change, again, it wasn't just, I don't know how much you saw at work because I wore a lab coat. I'm a nurse manager, and I was a nurse manager in a nursing home at the time. But people saw a tremendous shift. And most of that was just doing a few healthier things than I had done before, even before the full weight had come off. But life was so different. I was feeling it different. I was seeing it different. I was waking up different. I was going to sleep different. You can't ignore it. And I chose to continue. And I'm astounded at how I stumbled into this.
I know.
And how many things have changed for me.
No, and I'm the same way. I was able to lose my 50 pounds and get rid of it, actually. And then continue to kind of, as you live at a healthy weight and you find that rhythm in those habits, it just seems to get better and better. I don't know what it is, but it just seems like your body just wakes up more alive, and it's almost like we're getting chronologically older, but our biology is staying the same age. I don't know. It's just this weird thing, but it's been an amazing journey. It was so much more than I ever anticipated. And then now, being able to not only have a community around me of clients that I work with, but having a community of coaches that I get to be plugged into, and you're part of that community. And so I love the community aspect of this, that we want to, and we are working at taking some of the details of like a vacation planning mentality and really having the intention to do that and stretch it out for the rest of our lives. And so, anyway, I so thank you for.
I think it's important, Craig, I'm going to interrupt. Before you wrap up, it's important to know that just because you're in that rhythm every day is not always perfect.
Yeah, right.
And, today was like nasty weather here. And, I didn't feel like walking outside. For sure not. But every day is not perfect. But the goal is to just do a lot of healthy things every single day.
Well, even if I take this analogy, you might have a note that's off occasionally, but keep your rhythm. Right. And so, matter of if that's a good analogy or not, but I know that connecting with your coach and keeping your rhythm with your coach, staying connected to the community, continuing to listen. I recommend my clients, they read The Habits of Health once a year. And we actually start as a coaching team starting in January. Every Friday we go through a chapter, and it takes us all the way in, it's 26 weeks. And then I recommend listen to one Habits of Health webinar every week, at least, and just keep doing that. And so that's part of what has helped me keep my rhythm all these years, and that with the support of the coaches and my clients has been wonderful. So anyway, I just want to thank you so much for just having this chat with me today. I hope the people that are listening to this enjoy it and have some takeaways, and maybe can visualize what we're talking about with some of the analogies and word pictures that we use. But in the end, really, I find that we're a group of people that aren't as healthy as we want to be, and we're doing something about it together. That really is the community that binds us all together. And so if that's you, I just welcome you, and I invite you to stay, and quite frankly, invite some people. We need more people here because people are looking for this kind of thing. So thanks again, Miriam, for your time tonight. Thank you all of you for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time on the Habits of Health webinar. Take care.
The preceding audio may have contained the personal testimonials of some Take Shape for Life health coaches or clients. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified, and your individual path to healthy living and weight loss will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a physician before starting a weight loss program. Yours in health, the Take Shape for Life team.